Even supporters of the American president in the United States Congress have opposed Donald Trump's peace plan for Ukraine. Today, American congressmen and senators sharply criticized the Trump administration's peace plan for Ukraine, comparing it to the Munich Agreement of 1938 and the chaotic withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan in 2021. In fact, senators have begun comparing Donald Trump to the situation that involved Hitler. The day before, senators said United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio admitted the peace plan was written in Moscow and given to the White House for Donald Trump's team to pass to Ukraine. Therefore, it's incorrect to call it Donald Trump's peace plan. And after such a wave of criticism, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives and Donald Trump's ally, Mike Johnson, stated that, quote, diplomatic dialogue and joint action by allies will help ensure a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Let's discuss together this démarche by senators and congressmen against Donald Trump, because indeed, a lot of American lawmakers are now making very loud statements against the American president, including even Republicans. My name is Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, give a like, and leave any comment under this episode. In addition, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pichi News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the links and details in the description of this video. So, American congressmen and senators have sharply criticized the Trump administration's peace plan for Ukraine over the past 2 days. They compared it to the Munich Agreement of 1938 and the chaotic withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan in 2021. For example, Senator Mark Warner, the highest-ranking Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, stated that the 28-point plan, which became known last week, is a complete capitulation of Ukraine. It can also have serious consequences. And what we have in the description, Gardeshka to the whole world and amazement. Just a little bit here. Let me remind you that the consent of British Prime Minister Chamberlain and French Premier Edouard Daladier was to give Germany the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia. In the hope of appeasing Hitler, this went down in history as the Munich Agreement, and World War II began 11 months after the signing of this so-called peace agreement. And now senators in America are saying, Trump, you're doing the same thing. Are you an idiot or what? You're signing an agreement again, where you say, okay, let's just give this balding dictator Putin some Ukrainian territory and he'll immediately become all nice and harmless. No more war exactly. Let me give you a historical example, but it's important to note that the peace plan was criticized not only by the Democrats, but also by Trump's fellow Republicans, Senators Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, and Roger Wicker. All the Republicans called on the White House to refrain from actions that, in their opinion, threaten catastrophic consequences. Next, I will quote Mitch McConnell. Putin has spent the whole year trying to make President Trump look like a fool. If officials in the Trump administration are more concerned with appeasing Putin than ensuring real peace, then the president should find new advisors. Rewarding Russian atrocities will be disastrous for America's interests, and a surrender like Joe Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan would be catastrophic for the policy of peace, through strength. Uyghur then strongly opposed limiting the size of the armed forces of Ukraine. Quote, Lindsey Graham, a Republican and the author of the bill on 500% tariffs against countries purchasing Russian energy resources, stated that it is necessary to improve several problematic proposals. Noting that the plan also contains many good ideas, Graham stated, "The goal of any peace agreement is to end the war in a dignified and fair way, not to create a new conflict." Moreover, in the House of Representatives, a bipartisan coalition of congressmen intends to bring a bill imposing devastating sanctions against Russia to a vote immediately after Thanksgiving, which this year falls on Thursday, November 27. Trump, let me remind you, had earlier demanded that Volodymyr Zelensky agree to the peace plan specifically by Thanksgiving. He then said this deadline isn't strict. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who led negotiations in Switzerland over the weekend as the head of the American delegation with representatives from Ukraine and Europe, made a statement afterward, quote, "I am very optimistic and I believe that we will achieve this goal within a reasonable time frame. Whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday or Friday next week, we want this to happen as soon as possible." But here, well, if not Donald Trump, then Marco Rubio, as a devout Catholic, should listen to Pastor Mark Burns, who is called the spiritual mentor of the United States President. And yesterday, he made the following statement, quote, "This 28-point peace plan between Ukraine and Russia sends a dangerous signal to the world." He tells every evil dictator from Moscow to Tehran and Pyongyang that the global defenders of justice and peace are ready to tolerate evil if it is wrapped in a diplomatic package. Let me be clear, when the world let Hitler take Poland in 1939 without consequences, it opened the door to one of history's darkest chapters. And now we are witnessing this happen again. Give evil an inch and it will take a mile. Appeasement is not peace. Compromise without justice is not peace. Silence in the face of evil is complicity. This is a wonderful quote from Pastor Mark Burns, and it's not complete yet. If you want to read the full text, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link is in the description. Yesterday I published all the messages from Pastor Mark Burns. And let me remind you that the plan was developed by Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and Putin's representative Kirill Dmitriev when the latter flew to Miami in October. Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, who worked with Witkoff on the peace agreement, also attended the meeting. And now Bloomberg writes that Marco Rubio was allegedly fully briefed only at the last moment. And Trump learned about the plan at the last minute, but after receiving a brief summary, he approved it. Well, supposedly he didn't really look into it at all, they just gave him a general idea of what was happening and that was it. The provisions of this plan drew a sharp rebuke from European leaders who called them nothing less than a capitulation. But the most telling thing is how the senators admitted the day before that the plan was written in Moscow. Yesterday, Senators Mike Rounds, a Republican, and Jean Shahid, a Democrat, made an official statement following a phone call with Marco Rubio in which they made it clear that the peace plan proposed to Ukraine was developed and handed over to the Americans by Russia. And further, I quote Rounds, "Secretary of State Rubio called us in the afternoon. I think he made it clear to us that we are the recipients of a proposal that was handed over to one of our representatives. This is not our recommendation, this is not our peace plan, this is a proposal that was received, and as an intermediary we took action to share it and we did not make it public. It was a leak, it was not published by our members or representatives." Secretary of State Rubio confirmed the opportunity was used. This proposal is for the Ukrainians to respond to. And here is another statement from Democratic Senator Mark Kelly, quote, "This is Putin's plan. This is a very advantageous deal for Russia, but terrible for Ukraine, our allies, and even our own national security." As you can see, both Republicans and Democrats are against it. Ultimately, United States House Speaker Mike Johnson had to take responsibility for all. He stated that Republicans and Democrats remain united in their support. "We are convinced that international efforts, diplomatic dialogue, and joint action by allies will help ensure a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. In general, after very active work by Ukraine and European allies, Trump failed to push through this blatantly Russian peace plan and his own. Everyone noticed this in America too. They said, 'What are you pushing? This is our proposal. Don't embarrass yourselves.' That's why even today the Washington Post writes that Donald Trump supposedly never even saw this plan, he just trusted Steve Witkoff. Well, it's not Trump's fault, you see.